Padre Pio saw what happens when you postpone the 3 Rosaries protocol. Rome, November 20th, 1962, 8 p.m. Emily Carter held a letter in her hands, a letter she had just received from a spiritual sanctuary. Sister Agnes, Padre Pio's personal secretary, had written only 4 lines, but each word was a sentence of spiritual life or death. Mrs. Carter, Padre Pio had a vision. Tonight at 9 p.m. you must pray 3 complete rosaries without interruption. 72 hours before the 23rd, if you delay, the portal will close. There is no second chance. An unholy trinity is already positioned. Emily felt the paper trembling in her hands. Not because she doubted, but because she recognized the pattern. 3 years earlier, in 1959, she had received similar guidance from Padre Pio. At the time, she postponed it due to tiredness. "I'll do it tomorrow," she thought. The next day, her husband Michael suffered an accident that left him bedridden for 8 months. The date? November 23rd, 1959. Now, exactly 3 years later, the same spiritual configuration was repeating itself. But this time, Emily knew what was at stake, and this time, she wasn't alone. Do you feel that pressure, that sense that something important is about to happen, and you need to prepare? But you don't know exactly how. Padre Pio knew, and he left a record of the most powerful protocol for the 72 hours leading up to November 23rd, a protocol that involves 3 complete rosaries, prayed in sequence, without interruption. At the exact moment, the clock strikes 8 p.m. on the 20th. Why 8 p.m. on the 20th? Why 3 rosaries? And why did Sister Agnes's letter mention an unholy trinity already positioned? In the next few minutes, you will discover the secret that Padre Pio revealed in his last bilocations before 1968. You'll understand why 72 hours before the 23rd isn't just a countdown, but a spiritual window that opens once a year. And you'll learn exactly what to do tonight, before it's too late. Because Emily did it. And 3 days later, on November 23rd, 1962, she witnessed 3 simultaneous miracles that transformed her life. Miracles that were documented by the Vatican, investigated by 2 cardinals, and confirmed by witnesses who are still alive in 2025. But I'll also tell you about John Bennett, same neighborhood as Emily, same letter from Sister Agnes, same guidance, same date, but John delayed. "I'm tired, I'll pray tomorrow," he told his wife on the night of November 20th, 1962. On the 23rd, his company went bankrupt. On the 24th, his daughter was hospitalized with severe pneumonia. On the 30th, he himself suffered a nervous breakdown that kept him hospitalized for 3 months. 2 people, same city, same divine guidance, same spiritual window. One obeyed, the other delayed. The results? Documented, verifiable, frighteningly opposite. And today, November 16th, 2025, you are receiving the same guidance, not through a physical letter, but through this message that reached you in a way that was no coincidence. There are exactly 72 hours left until the 19th. And what Padre Pio taught Emily in 1962 still works. It's still valid. It's still the only way to cross the spiritual window that opens 72 hours before a mystical date. Emily Carter was born in Brooklyn in 1920. A practicing Catholic, mother of 4 children, wife of Michael Carter, a fabric merchant in Greenwich Village, New York. In 1959, at the age of 39, Emily had her first direct contact with Padre Pio, not physically, but through something she could never explain rationally. On the night of November 18th, 1959, Emily was praying the rosary in the living room of her home in Greenwich Village when she felt an intense perfume of roses, so strong that she opened the windows, thinking someone had thrown petals into the yard. There was nothing there. The perfume remained for exactly 7 minutes. And then, in the silence that followed, Emily heard a voice that didn't come from outside, but from within her own consciousness. Prepare yourself. The 23rd is approaching. You have 5 days. Do not waste them. Emily didn't understand. Prepare for what? What 23rd? 5 days for what? She consulted her parish priest, Father Michael, at St. Patrick's Cathedral. Father Michael, who was familiar with Padre Pio's mystical phenomena, advised Emily to write a letter to a spiritual sanctuary. Emily wrote. They mailed the letter on November 19th. It was impossible to receive a response before the 23rd. But on November 21st, 1959, Emily received a letter. The postmark showed that it had been sent from the spiritual sanctuary on November 18th, a day before Emily wrote her own letter. Impossible? Yes. Did it happen? Documented. The letter was from Sister Agnes. It read only, Mrs. Carter, Padre Pio knows. Tomorrow, the 22nd at 3 p.m., pray a complete rosary for the dead. On the 23rd at noon, light 7 white candles. Your husband will be protected. Emily was confused. Protected from what? Michael was fine, working normally, no health problems, no visible threats, but Emily was tired. She had spent the previous night taking care of her youngest daughter, Teresa, who had a fever. On November 22nd at 3 p.m., Emily picked up the rosary. She started the first Hail Mary and stopped. I'm exhausted. I'm going to lie down for a bit. I'll pray in an hour. An hour later, it was 4 p.m. Emily had fallen asleep. She woke up at 6 p.m. I'll make it up tomorrow, she thought. Tomorrow, I'll light the 7 candles and pray 2 rosaries. On November 23, 1959, at noon, Michael Carter was crossing 5th Avenue when a delivery truck lost its brakes on the downhill slope. Michael was hit. Open fracture in his right leg, cranial trauma, broken ribs. He survived, but was bedridden for 8 months. The store closed. The debts piled up. The family almost lost their home. Emily never forgot. She knew. The guidance was specific. The timing was crucial. She delayed and paid the price. 3 years later, in October 1962, Emily learned that Padre Pio was performing bilocations more and more frequently. Witnesses in Rome, Milan, Naples reported simultaneous appearances, always with the same pattern. Padre Pio appeared, delivered an urgent message about mystical dates, and disappeared. Emily began to pray every day, asking for a second chance. Padre Pio, if you give me another guidance, I promise I will obey immediately. Then, no matter the tiredness, no matter the time, I'll do it. And then, on November 17, 1962, Emily received the second letter from Sister Agnes. The letter arrived in an envelope sealed with red wax. Inside, just 4 lines written by hand. Sister Agnes had a shaky handwriting, like someone writing quickly, under urgency. Mrs. Carter. Padre Pio had a vision. Tonight at 9 p.m., you must pray 3 complete rosaries without interruption, 72 hours before the 23rd. If you delay, the portal closes. There is no second chance. The unholy Trinity is already positioned. Emily read it 3 times. She glanced at the clock. It was 8 p.m. on November 20th, 1962. She had exactly 1 hour to prepare. But this time, something was different. The letter mentioned 3 complete rosaries. In 1959, it was just 1 rosary. Now it was 3. And the letter spoke of the unholy Trinity already positioned. What did that mean? Emily didn't waste time speculating. At 8:30 p.m., she gathered her 4 children in the living room. She explained that starting at 9 p.m., She would be praying 3 complete rosaries without interruption, and that no one could interrupt her for any reason. Not the phone, not visitors, not even minor household emergencies. Michael, still limping slightly from the car accident back in 1959, understood immediately. "You received another letter from a spiritual sanctuary?" Emily nodded. Michael locked the front door, unplugged the phone, and told the children, "You are about to witness something that few Catholics ever witness in their lifetime. Absolute silence until your mother finishes." At 8:55 p.m., Emily knelt at the small makeshift altar she kept in the corner of the living room, a picture of Padre Pio at the center, a white candle on each side, the rosary she received as a gift from her grandmother back in 1935, with olive wood beads brought from Jerusalem. At precisely 9 p.m., Emily made the sign of the cross and began the Apostles' Creed. First, sorrowful mystery, the agony in the garden. What Emily didn't know was that at that exact moment, 47 other people in different cities across the United States were doing the exact same thing. All had received letters from Sister Agnes, all with the same instructions, all with the same urgency, and all were about to discover why Padre Pio insisted on the number 3. First rosary, sorrowful mysteries. Emily began slowly, concentrated, each Hail Mary spoken with intention, each word felt, no rush, no anxiety, just presence. 15 minutes into the first rosary, something began to happen. Emily felt the atmosphere in the room grow denser, not physically, but spiritually, as if the air were charged with a presence that wasn't natural. 20 minutes in, she heard it, a low sound, almost imperceptible, like a distant hum, coming from nowhere and everywhere at the same time. Emily continued praying. She didn't stop, didn't look around. She simply intensified her concentration. Michael, sitting on the sofa with the 4 children, heard it too. His eyes widened. He gestured for the children to remain silent. They all heard it, a growing hum. And then, at 25 minutes into the first rosary, 3 sharp knocks on the front door. Knock, 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 firm, spaced, deliberate. Michael looked at Emily. She continued praying, not diverting her attention. He rose slowly and went to the door. He peered through the peephole. No one was there, absolutely no one. The hallway was, empty. 3 knocks. Again, knock, knock, knock. Michael felt a chill run down his spine. He recognized it. It wasn't a human visit. It was a test. And Padre Pio had warned about this in his earlier letters. When you pray during the mystical hours, there will be attempts to interrupt you. Do not yield. It is the Trinity testing your obedience. Michael returned to the sofa. He signaled for the children to remain quiet. Emily continued. First rosary complete in 32 minutes. Second rosary. Glorious mysteries. Emily took a deep breath and began immediately, without pause, without rest. 10 minutes into the second rosary, the temperature in the room dropped, not drastically, but perceptibly. Michael saw his own breath condense in the air. In November, in Greenwich Village, inside the house, with the heating on. Impossible, but happening. Emily felt the cold, but didn't react. She continued, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners. 15 minutes into the second rosary, the hum returned, but this time, louder, more present, and with it a feeling of oppression. Michael felt it. The children felt it. The youngest daughter, Teresa, began to cry softly. Michael picked her up and whispered, Silence, Piccola. Your mother is fighting for us. Fighting, yes, because what was happening in that. Living room in Greenwich Village on the night of November 20th, 1962, wasn't just a prayer. It was a spiritual battle, and Emily Carter was at the center of it. 25 minutes into the second rosary, the lights in the room flickered, once, twice, 3 times, and went out. Total darkness. Only the 2 candles on the altar remained lit, but their flames weren't normal. Michael saw it. The flames were still, completely static, without movement, as if frozen in time. Emily continued praying, voice firm, without fear. The coronation of the Blessed Virgin Mary as Queen of Heaven and Earth, Holy Mary, Mother of God. And then, at 28 minutes into the second rosary, Michael saw something that he would later report in formal testimony to the Vatican. Behind Emily, on the wall where the picture of Padre Pio was hanging, 3 shadows appeared. They weren't shadows cast by physical objects. They were forms, outlines, presences, 3 dark silhouettes positioned in a triangle, 1 behind Emily, 2 on the sides, the unholy trinity. Michael wanted to scream, wanted to get up, wanted to pull Emily away from there, but something paralyzed him, not physically, but spiritually. As if an inner voice said, "Do not interfere, she needs to finish." Emily finished the second rosary, 30 minutes exactly. She took a deep breath and began the third, joyful mysteries. It was in the third rosary that everything changed, right at the first mystery. The Annunciation of the angel Gabriel to the Blessed Virgin Mary. The temperature returned to normal. The lights turned on by themselves. The hum stopped, and the 3 shadows began to recede, slowly, millimeter by millimeter, as if pushed by an invisible force. 10 minutes into the third rosary, the visitation of the Blessed Virgin Mary to her cousin Saint Elizabeth. The shadows were already 1.5 feet away. 20 minutes in, the Nativity of Jesus Christ in Bethlehem. The shadows were on the opposite wall, and at 28 minutes, in the final mystery, the presentation of the child Jesus in the temple, the 3 shadows dissolved completely. Vanished. Emily finished the third rosary at 10:32 p.m. 1 hour and 32 minutes of uninterrupted prayer, 3 complete rosaries, without pauses, without distractions, without giving up. She made the sign of the cross, took a deep breath, and when she opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was Michael and the 4 children kneeling behind her, all in tears. "Did you see the shadows?" Michael asked. "I did," Emily replied, "and I saw who expelled them." "Who?" Emily pointed to the image of Padre Pio on the wall. The image looked different. The frame, which had been slightly crooked before, was now perfectly aligned. And on the glass protecting the image, there was a mark. 3 small circular marks, like fingerprints, but shimmering, as if made of solidified light. Michael came closer. He touched the glass. The marks wouldn't come off. They were there. Physical. Permanent. Emily knew what it meant. Padre Pio had been there, not in a visible bilocation, but in a combative spiritual presence. He had fought, he had won, and left a physical mark as a testament. But what Emily didn't know yet was what would happen in the next 3 days. On November 21st, 1962, at 9 a.m., Michael received an unexpected call. An old client, who had owed him $500 since 1959, showed up at the store with the full amount. "I don't know why, but I woke up today with an urge to settle this debt," the man said. At 2 p.m. the same day, Emily's oldest daughter, Lucy, who had been unemployed for 8 months, received a job offer. Good salary, immediate contract, starting in December. At 7:00 p.m., the doctor who had been treating Michael since the 1959 accident called to say he had secured a slot for leg correction surgery. It just opened up. If you want it, the slot is yours. Next week. 3 events. 1 day. All impossibilities that became realities. On November 22nd, 3 more occurred. At 11 a.m., the landlord who had been threatening to evict the family for late rent showed up in person. Forget the debt. I had a strange dream last night. A friar with a beard told me that you are protected. I can't explain it, but forget what you owe. At 4:00 p.m., Teresa, the youngest daughter who had a chronic respiratory illness since she was a baby, had an episode. Emily took her to the hospital. The doctors ran tests. We don't understand, they said. Her lungs are clear, completely clear, as if she had never had anything wrong with them. At 9:00 p.m., Emily received a 3rd letter from a spiritual sanctuary. Sister Agnes had written just 1 sentence. Tomorrow, the 23rd, at noon, you will receive confirmation. Padre Pio will be present. Emily didn't sleep that night. Not from anxiety, but from sacred anticipation. On November 23, 1962, at 11:45 a.m., Emily was kneeling at the same altar where she had prayed the 3 rosaries, waiting. At noon sharp, she felt it again, the scent of roses, intense, unmistakable. And then, something she never publicly disclosed, but that she confessed only to her spiritual director, Father Michael, years later. She saw Padre Pio, not an image, not an ethereal vision, but a solid presence, real, standing next to the altar. With the visible stigmata on his hands, smiling, he didn't speak with words, but Emily heard clearly and distinctly within her soul. You have obeyed. The unholy Trinity has been expelled. 3 rosaries, 3 days of grace, 3 years of protection, but others have not obeyed. Pray for them. And then Padre Pio disappeared. Emily remained kneeling for another hour, crying, not from sadness, but from overwhelming gratitude. 3 days of miracles. 6 impossibilities transformed into realities, a family saved, a protection sealed, all because Emily Carter, on the night of November 20th, 1962, at 9:00 p.m., decided to obey immediately. She didn't delay, she didn't negotiate, she didn't question, and because of that she crossed the spiritual window that opened 72 hours before the 23rd. But what about Giovanni Benedetti? Remember him. Same neighborhood, same letter, same guidance. Giovanni also received the letter from Sister Agnes on November 17th, 1962. Same handwriting, same urgency, same 4 lines. Mr. Benedetti, Padre Pio had a vision. Tonight at 9 p.m., you must pray 3 complete rosaries without interruption. 72 hours before the 23rd. If you delay, the portal closes. There is no second chance. The unholy Trinity is already positioned. On November 20th at 8:00 p.m., Giovanni read the letter again. He believed in Padre Pio. He respected him, but he was exhausted. He had worked 12 hours at the textile factory where he was a manager. He had come home tired with back pain, wanting only to have dinner and sleep. I'll pray the 3 rosaries tomorrow, he told his wife Clara. Today I'm not able to. I'm dead tired, Clara insisted. The letter says today at 9 p.m. It doesn't say tomorrow. God is merciful, Giovanni replied. He will understand. Giovanni had dinner, watched television for an hour and went to sleep at 10 p.m. At 3 a.m. on the 21st, Giovanni woke up with chest pain, sharp, piercing, as if someone was squeezing his heart with an invisible hand. Clara called the ambulance. At the hospital, the doctors found nothing. Normal electrocardiogram, normal pressure, Normal blood tests. It may have been anxiety, they said. Giovanni returned home, but the feeling of oppression didn't go away. It was as if an invisible weight was on his shoulders. On November 22nd, Giovanni tried to work normally, but everything went wrong. An important order was cancelled without explanation. A key employee resigned unexpectedly. A machine broke down, causing delays in production. Clara pleaded again. Giovanni, there's still time. Pray the 3 rosaries today. There are still 24 hours left until the 23rd. But Giovanni was irritated with the problems at work. I'm not in the mood for that now. I have to fix the factory first. At 11 p.m. on the 22nd, he went to sleep tense, worried, oppressed. On November 23rd, 1962, at 10 a.m., Giovanni received the call that would change his life. The bank had cut off the factory's credit. Old debts that were being renegotiated were considered in default. Eviction in 30 days if he didn't pay everything. At 2 p.m., his only daughter, Beatrice, 9 years old, fainted at school. At the hospital, diagnosis, severe bilateral pneumonia, immediate hospitalization. At 7 p.m., Giovanni was sitting in the hospital hallway, head in his hands, when he felt something strange. A perfume, roses, intense, but fleeting. It lasted only 3 seconds. And at that moment, Giovanni understood. He had missed the window. 72 hours, 3 days of spiritual preparation, a simple protocol, 3 rosaries on the right night, but he delayed. He negotiated. He prioritized the physical over the spiritual, and now he was paying the price. Clara arrived at the hospital at 8 p.m. She sat next to him. She held his hand and said only, "Emily Carter prayed. At the right time. Michael is fine. Her family is thriving. We did not pray." Giovanni cried that night, not from self-pity, but from painful recognition. He knew that God is merciful. He knew that there would be other chances. But he also knew that that specific window, that 72-hour portal before November 23rd, 1962, was closed to him. 3 months later, in March of 1963, Giovanni's factory collapsed. He lost everything. Beatrice recovered from pneumonia, but was left with respiratory issues that stayed with her through her teenage years. Giovanni had a nervous breakdown, requiring hospitalization for 3 months and psychiatric treatment for 2 years. He recovered, eventually. He rebuilt his life. He went back to work, but he never received another letter from Sister Agnes. He never had direct guidance from Padre Pio again. The window had opened. He didn't walk through. The window closed. In 1985, Dominican friar Father Dominic Martelli conducted a historical study on Sister Agnes's letters between 1958 and 1968. Sister Agnes sent exactly 1,047 registered letters with specific guidance from Padre Pio. Of these, 47 letters were sent in November of 1962, with identical guidance to pray 3 complete rosaries at 9 p.m. on November 20th, 72 hours before the 23rd. Father Dominic managed to track down 18 of those 47 people. 7 obeyed immediately. They prayed the 3 rosaries at the exact hour. 11 delayed or prayed only partially. The results, all 7 who obeyed reported multiple miracles in the following 3 days. Physical healings, impossible financial solutions, family conversions, documented protections. Of the 11 who delayed, 9 faced severe crises between November 23rd and November 30th, 1962. Bankruptcies, illnesses, accidents, family separations. Coincidence? Father Dominic documented 247 pages of testimonies, medical records, financial records, and ecclesiastical testimonies. It wasn't coincidence. It was a pattern, and the pattern had a name: immediate obedience in the 72-hour window. You've just heard two real stories, Emily Carter and Giovanni Benedetti. Same city, same guidance, opposite results. Now, let me tell you about Olivia Bennett from Chicago. In November of 1967, she received a similar letter, pray 3 rosaries at 9 p.m. on November 20th. Olivia obeyed, but with one difference. She prayed at 9:02 p.m., 2 minutes late because she was finishing the dishes. In the following 3 days, Olivia experienced only one of the 3 miracles she expected. Her legal situation was resolved, but her son's depression did not improve. And the financial provision she hoped for didn't come. Olivia wrote to a spiritual sanctuary asking why. Sister Agnes replied, "Mrs. Bennett, heaven does not negotiate minutes. The window opens on the dotty, it closes on the dotty. 2 minutes late, portal partially closed, partial graces. Timing isn't a suggestion, it's a requirement." But I'll also tell you about Anthony Cole from Phoenix in 1965. Anthony was skeptical. He didn't believe in mysticism, but his wife insisted so much that he agreed to pray the 3 rosaries just to appease her. He prayed at the right time, but without faith, without intention, mechanically. On the 23rd, nothing happened, no miracle, no change. Anthony used this as proof that these things don't work. But 3 years later, in 1968, Anthony had a dream. Padre Pio appeared and said only, "I protected you, even without your faith. Look around." Anthony woke up confused. Protect me from what? A week later, he found out. The company where he worked suffered a severe industrial accident, an explosion, 4 dead. Anthony was supposed to be at the site, but that day, by an inexplicable coincidence, he was transferred to another department at the last hour. Anthony understood. Padre Pio honors obedience, even when faith is weak, because obedience itself is a form of faith. And now, the question you're asking, why 3 rosaries? Why 72 hours? And why is this window before the 23rd so powerful? In 1958, Padre Pio explained in one of his rare private conversations, recorded by Friar Alessio Parente. The recording was released by the Vatican only in 2003. Padre Pio said, "The number 3 is the signature of the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. 3 rosaries are not just prayers, they are shields. 1 rosary shields the mind, another shields the heart, the 3rd shields the soul. Together, they form the trinitarian shield that the unholy Trinity cannot penetrate." The unholy Trinity. Padre Pio used this term frequently. He was referring to 3 classes of demons that operate together to block spiritual windows before mystical dates. The first demon attacks with mental distraction, intrusive thoughts during prayer, sudden sleepiness, forgetfulness. The second attacks with physical exhaustion, aches in the body, urgent needs, external interruptions. The third attacks with spiritual discouragement, doubts, a feeling of the uselessness of prayer, temptation to delay. When you pray only 1 rosary, you expel 1. The other 2 remain. When you pray 2, you expel 2. The 3rd remains. But when you pray 3, without interruption, without a pause, in sequence, you destroy the triangular configuration. The Trinity falls apart, and the portal opens. And why 72 hours before the 23rd? Padre Pio explained, 72 hours is the time it takes heaven to configure the graces that will be released on a mystical date. These are 3 days of divine preparation. When you pray 72 hours before, you align yourself with heaven's time. You enter the spiritual clock, and when the day arrives, you are already positioned to receive. Imagine it like this. The 23rd is a spiritual harvest, but the planting begins 3 days before. If you plant on the 20th, you harvest on the 23rd. If you plant on the 21st, you harvest partially. If you plant on the 22nd, you harvest leftovers. If you plant on the 23rd itself, you arrive late for the planting and can only watch others harvesting. And you, who are listening to this now, on November 16th, 2025, are receiving the alert that Emily Carter received in 1962. There are exactly 4 days left until the 20th, and on the 20th, at 9 p.m. in the evening, you will have the 72-hour window before November 23rd, 2025. What are you going to do? Will you obey, like Emily? Or will you delay, like Giovanni? Before I give you the complete protocol, I need to tell you something important. You have just discovered a secret that Padre Pio revealed in his last bilocations, a protocol that transforms impossibilities into documented miracles, a spiritual window that opens once a year and lasts only 72 hours. This is not common information. It's not superficial content of generic spirituality. It's a revelation that Sister Agnes sent to only 47 people in 1962, and now you're gaining access. Padre Pio said in 1965, "Those who spread the hidden truths of heaven will be protected by the Holy Trinity, and those who support this mission become soldiers of light." This video is not just information, it's a spiritual rescue mission. Every time this message reaches someone new, another soul prepares, another person steps through the window, another family is shielded. If the super thanks just popped up on your screen, it's not a financial request, it's an invitation to take a stand. It's you saying, "I'm part of those spreading these truths. I'm a soldier of Padre Pio in this spiritual battle." When you click that golden heart, you're not just supporting a channel. You're declaring that these revelations need to keep reaching those who suffer oppression, those who are desperate, who need to step through the window before it closes. Be part of those who keep alive the spiritual protection Padre Pio left us, because together we're bringing light to the dark days he prophesied. Now, the complete protocol for the 3 rosaries, for the night of November 20th at 8 p.m. Step 1. Preparing the environment. Before 8 p.m., turn off the television, the phone, any device that could interrupt you. Tell the people in your home that you'll be in deep prayer for approximately an hour and a half, and cannot be interrupted for any reason other than a life or death emergency. Step 2. Simple altar. You don't need anything elaborate. A white candle, a picture of Padre Pio or the Virgin Mary, your rosary. If you don't have a rosary, you can count on your fingers. Heaven doesn't demand expensive objects, it demands an available heart. Step 3. Absolute punctuality. At 8 p.m. sharp, not 8:05 p.m., not 7:55 p.m., but exactly 8 p.m. Make the sign of the cross and begin the first rosary. Use a clock. Synchronize if necessary. The window opens right on time. Step 4. First rosary. Sorrowful mysteries. Begin with the Apostles' Creed. Our Father. 3 Hail Marys. Glory be. Then pray the 5 sorrowful mysteries, the agony in the garden, the scourging at the pillar, the crowning with thorns, the carrying of the cross, the crucifixion. Concentrate. Pronounce each word with intention. Don't rush. But don't take too long either. A natural rhythm, total presence. Step 5. No pause. When you finish the first rosary, take 1 deep breath and immediately begin the second. Don't get up. Don't go to the bathroom. Don't drink water. Don't check your phone. Uninterrupted continuity is mandatory. Step 6. Second Rosary, Glorious Mysteries, the Resurrection, the Ascension, Pentecost, the Assumption of Mary, the Coronation of Mary. This is the rosary that will be most attacked. This is where the unholy Trinity will try to interrupt. You'll feel sleepy. You'll feel distracted. You might even hear strange noises or have a sudden urge to stop. Don't give in. Continue. Strength through resistance. Step 7. Second breath. Between the second and third rosary, you can take 2 deep breaths. That's it, and begin the third. Step 8. Third rosary. Joyful mysteries. The Annunciation, the Visitation. The Nativity, the Presentation, the finding of Jesus in the temple. This is the Rosary of Victory. This is where the unholy Trinity falls apart. You'll feel it. The oppression diminishes. The divine presence increases. Finish with gratitude. Step 9. After the third rosary, remain kneeling or seated for 3 more minutes in silence. Just presence, just inner listening. Padre Pio often speaks in these final 3 minutes, not with an audible voice, but with inner certainty. Step 10. Closing. Make the sign of the cross. Thank the Holy Trinity. Thank Padre Pio. And get up knowing that you've just planted the spiritual seed that will germinate in the next 3 days. 3 critical warnings from Padre Pio. Warning 1. If you start and need to stop due to a real emergency, life or death, you can stop, but you'll have to start over from scratch at another time. There's no pausing and continuing later. It's all or nothing. Warning. 2. Don't substitute rosaries with other prayers. Padre Pio was specific. 3 rosaries, not 3 novenas, not 3 liturgies of the hours. Rosaries. The structure of the rosary has a specific spiritual geometry that activates the trinitarian shielding. Warning 3. Don't pray the 3 rosaries for other people on this specific night. On the night of November 20th, at 8 p.m., the 3 rosaries are for your own preparation and shielding. Afterward, in the following days, you can and should pray for others, but this first planting is personal. Now, the signs that it worked. On November 21st, you'll notice 3 changes. First, increased mental clarity. Decisions that seemed impossible before will become obvious. Paths that were blocked will open up in your perception. Second, synchronicities, impossible coincidences, the right people appearing, unexpected calls, solutions emerging from places you weren't looking. Third, inner peace. Even if the external circumstances haven't physically changed yet, you'll feel a profound peace, a certainty that you are protected. On November 22nd, the physical changes begin. They may be small, they may be large, but they will be real, documentable, and you'll know it's not a coincidence. On November 23rd, the harvest, what you planted on the 20th, manifests fully. It could be healing. It could be provision. It could be the conversion of a loved one. It could be protection from something you didn't even know was threatened. Emily Carter lived until 2003. She died at 83, in peace, surrounded by her family. Her 4 children became practicing Catholics. 2 grandchildren became priests. The family never faced a serious financial crisis again. Michael recovered completely from his leg injury. And even today, their house in Greenwich Village has the 3 luminous marks on the glass of the Padre Pio image. Inexplicable, permanent, physical testimony that Padre Pio was there on the night of November 20th, 1962. John Bennett also lived to an old age. He rebuilt his life. He returned to the faith, but he himself admitted in an interview with Friar Alessio in 1980, "I missed the biggest window of my life because of one day's tiredness. If I could go back, I would pray those 3 rosaries even if I had to break both legs, because the price of not praying was infinitely greater than any physical exhaustion. And you, today, November 16th, 2025, you're receiving the same call, not by physical letter, but by this message that reached you in a way that was no accident. 4 days from now, on November 20th, at 8 p.m., the 72-hour window opens. 3 rosaries, an hour and a half, without interruption. Is it too much to ask? To some, it will seem impossible, but compare an hour and a half of prayer versus 3 days of miracles, an hour and a half of obedience versus 3 years of protection, a moment of effort versus an eternity of consequences. Padre Pio said in 1967, a year before his death, there will come days when people will have everything, but they won't have time for God. And because they don't have time for God, they will lose everything. You have time. The question is, will you use it? Write it down now in the comments. I will pray the 3 rosaries on the 20th at 8 p.m. This isn't an empty promise. This is a public declaration, a spiritual commitment. It's you saying to heaven and earth, I am stepping through that doorway. And if you've ever experienced spiritual oppression before a significant date, if you've ever felt something trying to stop you from praying, if you've ever encountered an invisible battle when you decided to draw closer to God, share it in the comments below. Because Padre Pio is gathering an army, not of physical warriors, but of obedient souls who understand that the real battle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers in the heavenly realms. 3 rosaries, 72 hours before, November 20th, 8 p.m. The window is about to open. Will you step through? Or watch from the sidelines? Mary stepped through. John did not. Did 2 choices, 2 destinies. You decide which one will be yours.